one with Brittany.
What is up, everyone? We are here on the, I believe, 13th or 14th episode of the Mac and Riley podcast. Couldn't make up our
Not
mind,
sure.
right? But we're getting up there. And so, which is really cool. And as a sort of celebratory slash interesting, different episode for this one, we thought it would be cool to talk about how each of us really got to be where we are and just talk about who we are, where we came from, how we made it here, and let you guys really know each of us and where we're coming from. And we thought that would be a really cool approach. So today we are talking about Mac's story,
My story.
her story, where she came from.
Riley's is going to be the next. So stay
Yes,
tuned.
we're putting you on the spotlight, and then any crazy questions, I'm sure will come right back at me. So I'm going to be careful with that.
Now I'm curious what you'll ask.
Let's go.
I'm like, hopefully I have an answer.
Yeah. And we were just talking about before this episode how life is changing, man. Crazy things are happening.
Life's moving fast, as the kids say, or whatever they say.
Life is moving fast.
I think that's what people say. Life comes at you fast or something.
Yeah.
Like, well,
Yeah.
if you would have told me that we would be here, even at the beginning of the year, I'd be like, whoa.
No chance. Who
Like,
who who would have
this
thought?
time last month, to be honest.
Who would have thought? Who would have thought we would be doing what we're doing right now?
Yeah.
This is crazy. And so, yeah, I guess we are kind of teasing some things at the listeners there, and
Yeah.
we'll get back to it at some point. But first, Makenzie, let's go.
Let's
What
go.
got you? What really got you into coaching? Like starting from growing up, right? And you've kind of told me your story. This
Yeah,
was a little bit ago.
I think I mentioned this on the first episode very briefly, but not necessarily in depth. So like was not like an athletic kid, didn't play sports. I still lived like a healthy life. Like I wasn't like going through drive-throughs every day or like anything like that, but I wasn't your standard athlete by any means. Like I just kind of like existed as a kid, I guess. Like I was active in roundabout ways. And then like everyone around me obviously played sports. I trialed sports, didn't like it. And I think I mentioned this in the first episode too. I think it goes back to me being an only child and feeling very uncomfortable in a team environment. I just
Oh,
I did not like that at all because I felt like there was a lot of pressure on me and a lot of eyes on me, and I felt really uncomfortable with that, I think. I don't think it came down to not actually liking the sport itself. I think it was like the eyes on me, people having too much expectation on me, or of like, we didn't win a game, it's somehow my fault, or something like that. Um,
what kind of
so,
sports were they? What sports did
so
you?
I did, I'm done. I did basketball, which was co-ed.
At
That
what
was,
age?
I think it was in like middle school.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Basically, just like sat the bench the whole time, which their board for just reinforced the like, okay, I really suck at this. I'm just sitting here. Um, I did gymnastics, which isn't really like a team sport per se. Maybe it is. I don't know. Um, but I saw some girl break her neck, and I was like, I don't really want to do this.
Oh no.
Yeah, I did gymnastics, volleyball briefly. I think I dabbled maybe a little bit in soccer, which I think what helped was my mom never like was like, no, you have to do this. Like you signed up, you have to do this. Like she did want me to like try it out and like see, but she wasn't like forcibly like, okay, you have to do this. You signed up. Because I think then I would have just like resented movement as a whole, probably.
Yeah.
And it would just feel very forced. Even so, like, not to get off topic, but like I see that with clients whose families like made them play a sport or like made them diet alongside their mom, which is just like so messed up on so many levels. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I did get into like Taekwondo for a bit, which I did really like that, which once again is an individual
Yep.
sport.
Yep.
it wasn't that I didn't like competing against people, but I didn't like the whole like this person's on my team, this person's not. I didn't like that. Um, so, anyways, I did Taekwondo a little bit in high school. Went to college. Well, I skipped a part. I started going to the gym in high school, not really willingly. Like I just went with my friend because she wanted me to go, and I was like, oh God, I don't like this. But I ended up really liking it, and I just never stopped going. At that point, did I know what I was doing? Not at all. Like, I was just kind of going in, doing the same exact workout, same exact weight, just kind of like messing around, which is fine. Like I was still a kid at this point. I was just like getting movement in, which was great. Um, then it turned, I moved out, moved to college, had, of course, like no one was monitoring my food, nobody was monitoring my day to day. Pretty much went like opposite of freshman 15. This was when like eating disorder really like fully opened. I was actually talking about this with a client. She had a past history of like eating disorder, and I was like, me too. I feel like for everybody who's had, whether it's like binge eating or like bulimia or whatever, there's always like a core memory where your brain realizes like, okay, I think this might be becoming an issue. Like if we are to do something about it, like we should probably do something about it now. And most people end up ignoring that. Not everyone, but that first moment came for me like later in high school. It was probably like a junior, senior in high school. And like I was hungry. I wanted a snack. We didn't really have anything in the house to eat. And I was like, okay, well, I guess not. And then I remember having a counter thought that was like, you probably shouldn't eat a snack anyway, kind of thing. And then I
Yeah.
was like, that's a really weird thought. But I just didn't do anything about it. So I could have nipped it then and been like, hey, this is an issue. Like, where is this stemming from? But I was like, nah. And then, of course, like those thoughts carried on, developed into an eating disorder, was still going to the gym, channeling it, trying to convince myself, no, I'm just like a gym girl. That was not the case. Ended up kind of like going through recovery for that, which it really, the eating disorder really stemmed from a fear. And I can see this back to childhood too, a fear of like gaining unnecessary body fat. I wasn't actively gaining weight, but I was scared that anything I did would cause that. So I like did everything I could to prevent that. And I remember when I was very young, it's like, again, one of those core memories, which I'm sure you have several of them that we'll go into next episode. It was Easter. It was maybe like between 7 and 10. And one of my family members, not like a parental figure, but like kind of distant-ish family, mentioned something about like my thighs getting big or something like that. And it stuck so heavily. Like I remember it to this day. It's one of those core memories where you can like envision the room around you and like can see everything. And I think that probably has something like deeply rooted to do with it. Anyways, recovered. During this time I was also like getting off of birth control, trying to like get my cycle back from the eating disorder and then from the birth control and all of that. At this time I was still in college, like away from home. Um, and at this point, I was not coaching people, training people. And to be frank, as you can clearly see, I didn't know enough to be coaching anyone anyways.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't in like the mindset to be coaching anybody anyways. So after all of this, I started coaching people on the side for free once I like started realizing like more about human physiology. Like, okay, we need food. I learned about like reverse dieting and bringing your metabolic rate back up and all of this stuff. And I was like, man, I would really like to help people with this, especially people who maybe haven't had like a full-fledged eating disorder, but maybe struggle with disordered eating or like restricting or scared to gain weight, scared to eat, feel like kind of that rhetoric of I look at a burger and gain weight or whatever. So I started kind of just coaching people for free with like, okay, let's start like tracking your macros and the typical kind of like, okay, I have no qualification to be doing this, but let me kind of experiment with you and see what happens. And started just like falling in love with it, started following people on Instagram. This was very much the era of like, if it fits your macros, microwave Quest bars, that kind of era. So
What year-ish?
maybe like 2018, 2019. So if
Yeah.
you could think back to the
Yep.
fitness industry then,
Yep.
very much so like if it fits, it fits. No concern about like food quality or really anything other deeper than like calories and macros, which I think is a place that most coaches start with. And to be fair, you do need to understand that before you kind of further anything else. But if your whole coaching is based around that, you will run into issues very quickly. So I was just like kind of coaching people for free. COVID happened, school obviously shut down, and I was like, didn't have a job. I was working retail at the time, so like the mall was closed. I didn't really know what to do. Went back to California, and I signed up for NASM, and I was like, well, I'll do something with my time. So I got like certified as a personal trainer, and then went in and out of gyms, the typical like in-person trainer, getting paid shit wages, working with like everyone and anyone. People like that have, I guess, just a skewed mindset of like, oh, this personal trainer is going to get me skinny and I'm going to be able to just like work out with them once a week and everything's going to be taken care of. And that's when I was like, okay, I need further monitoring of these people outside of just the hour that I'm with them. And that is like when like online fitness was starting to kind of pop off with like kind of like coaching people remotely, coaching people online. So I got a job as an assistant coach while I was still coaching in person at the time. And let's see. I noticed that I was able to help these people a lot more, even if I wasn't in proximity with them, because for in-person training, I think a lot of people are under the mindset like, okay, like my coach isn't here. I'll see them on Wednesday. Everything I do outside of Wednesday is like my business. But with online coaching, it's like everything that is done, your coach pretty much knows about. So I was able to get these people like much better results, much faster progress. They were more trusting of me. And I was like, dang, this is like really freaking cool. So I ended up getting like a full roster and became an online coach full time. And at this point, it was still very just like basic fitness. I was still getting people results, reverse dieting them, all of that. Knew some stuff about like hormone stuff, but nothing crazy by any means. And I just kept educating, like using mentors like Sam Miller. I'm trying to think of more. Justin, of course. I would say Sam Miller was my first eye opening into like the functional space. And I took some of his courses, kept taking courses, and just started broadening my horizons. And I think too, like the biggest thing with like this sector of like fitness, functional health is actually like you can know everything on a physiological basis, but to see it actually play out in a human is where you're actually going to learn.
Yeah.
Because
And
you
happen to
can
troubleshoot.
know,
It doesn't
yeah,
happen how you think it's going to happen.
no, it never really does. Even if it's like, well, okay, the textbook says XYZ, it's like, okay, but like this is like a living human
Yeah.
being. So I started getting more clients coming to me like, I lost my menstrual cycle, or like I have bloating, or like I have Hashimoto's, or whatever the case is, and helping them, but still on a very like light level. Like maybe they're working with me and a functional med doctor or whatever. And then I started to see like, why is this functional medicine doctor telling them that? Whether it's like, could be anything, like just giving like very strange advice. I'm trying to think of a specific example. I mean, we were just talking about this off the call, but we'll see people's protocols that come to us and we're like, oh, that's why you haven't seen any progress with this gut issue or this thyroid issue or whatever. So I was like kind of starting to see that then, just based off of my knowledge bank that I was getting from mentorships and stuff, not necessarily thinking like I was qualified to be a functional med doctor, but I was just like, this is weird and like doesn't align with what I've learned. So I started once again researching, going back, doing all of the things, and started taking more of these clients under my wing, hence joining ECA and just continuing to learn, which that has just been a world of its own with learning, because even like other mentorship courses aren't teaching the functional stuff that
Yeah.
ECA is. I know that you've taken more. So question for you, I know this is like my story, but how would you say your experience has been with the stuff that you learn in ECA versus, I don't want to name drop, but other places?
Yeah, learning the functional health side of things. And for anyone wondering what that is like,
Yeah,
you have,
I probably should have explained what that is.
yeah, because it is interesting. So you have fitness coaching, right? Which is like eat clean, get your steps, go to the gym. And then people have questions about like, what do I do at the gym? What should I eat? How many times? What calorie and macros? So that is fitness coaching generally. And then you have like competitive bodybuilding coaching, right, where you're coaching competitors. Now, within all of that, to some extent, is this functional health aspect of things, or all on its own with functional health fixes that don't even necessarily have to be in a fitness type context, where if there's a gut issue, you're not digesting things well, you have bad overgrowth of bad bacteria in your gut, you have not enough good bacteria in your gut. Maybe your thyroid is lacking, right? You go to the doctor, they say, oh, based on this number, you are hypothyroid, Hashimoto, here's medication, whatever it is. Or PCOS, right? You go to the doctor and they say, okay, well, and a lot of times without seeing if they're actually ovarian cysts, you just be like, okay, based on your hormones, your PCOS, you have PCOS symptoms, or and even things like eczema, or you're starting to lose hair, or your energy's not good, right? Going back to gut health, like you got crazy digestion. So that happens with a lot of people, whether you're trying to be healthy or not. And then especially in people who are trying
All of
to,
this stuff that you're saying right now could be the root cause of why they're even searching for a coach to lose weight, because they can't figure out how to do it on their own because they're so stuck.
exactly, like they're just not making any progress. And it's like, well, reverse dieting, right? If you're not eating any food and we want you to start eating more calories, but every time you eat any food, you're just way too bloated to eat any food. It's like, okay, that's a major bottleneck. You need nutrients, but your gut cannot handle nutrients. So handling each of those different scenarios is what we call functional health, right? Keeping you healthy in ways that are a little bit different and can fill the gaps in what doctors can do, right? Because doctors can give you medications and they have 15 minutes to decide, what you may or may not have and prescribe a medication based on that. But functional health is, right, what are you doing on a daily basis? Are you, right? How is your stress levels? What are your sleep habits like? What can we do to fix that? Because that leads to a lot of issues. What's going on in your gut? You go to a doctor, a lot of them don't read GI maps. They'll just say, okay, you're really bloated. Let's give you an antibiotic.
Most of them don't order GI maps.
Yeah,
Plus, too, and I am by no means like shitting on Western medicine, because I do think it has a time and a place, especially for emergency circumstances. Like if somebody comes to me with a chopped off leg, I can't do anything about that. Like I don't know. Like BPC isn't going to help that. Sorry.
exactly. Exactly.
I can't do anything with that. So not saying that they don't have their own place and they're not knowledgeable, because there's a lot of things that I can't do that they can do. But like even back when I was like coming off birth control, restoring my cycle, all of that, I went to the OBGYN to try to get, well, first I went to my PCP and I said I would like a full hormonal panel, listed everything that I wanted. And she goes, I will not order that for you because I will not know how to interpret it. And I was like, okay, good to know. Great. Can you refer me to an OBGYN? And she said, yeah, sure. They refer me to an OBGYN. They pull the labs. And this was when, I don't know if this happened to you, but like a doctor would pull labs and you never get the labs back. Like you never actually saw those labs. So I requested to get the labs to me. LH, FSH was like basically none. Like everything was just like basically none, as you would assume, because once again, my like axis between my brain and my ovaries was just like off. So there was nothing going on. And I was like, yeah, so like I don't have a cycle. Like what's the labs say? And she was like, well, your LH and FSH are pretty low, but this can happen in active people. And I was like, I had already done my own research. I pretty much already knew I had HA, which HA is hypothalamic amenorrhea. So like, once again, going back to that HPA axis and your ovaries are not communicating. And this could be for a lot of reasons. For me, it was more so, one, the birth control, but two, stress related, underfueling, like a lot of things. And I actually was on the phone with the OB, like educating her on what this is. And she was like, thanks, I'll look into that. I was like, great. But all that to say, like, you put your 100, most people put their 110% like confidence into these health professionals, which is valid. That's what we've been told to do under the guise of like, they're going to help me. But if you don't already have knowledge yourself, sadly, like, you might not get where you want to go.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So the functional health really is how can we handle those things at the root, right? An OBGYN, some of the, they can prescribe you birth control. Maybe they can do HRT.
Correct. That was my option. You can go back on birth control. And I was like, I'm good. That's fine.
Yeah. So
I'll figure
then,
it out.
yeah, but then as you said, stress, undereating, and birth control. Well, there's a lot of root cause that you can go in underneath all of that. So functional health, what we really do is we determine, well, what's really happening? What's causing you to have the symptoms that you may end up going to the doctor to get prescribed for those symptoms? Right? So functional health is addressing the root cause of what's happening beneath those symptoms. Now, to go back to what you said about the courses, there's not a ton of it out
I
there.
asked that.
Yeah,
Yeah, let's go back to that.
there's not a ton of it out there, right? There's a lot of education on calories and macros and micronutrients and
I would argue too much. If
yeah,
I'm being
too
honest.
too much. There's a lot of opinions and
And it's just people beating a dead horse. Like, I'm sorry, if you're in the fitness industry for X amount of years, you already know all that.
yeah, yeah,
Like,
and
that's,
so
you know it. So it's like you could just skip that part.
for
In my
sure. Yeah, and then to also argue like there's so much information that at this point now it's not for lack of information, it's like it's decision fatigue. Like you're going to sit down and be like, well, if you can come to a decision about what to do with your training, your calories, your macros, whatever, you're probably going to see something a week or a month later that throws a wrench in all of it, and you're going to want to change everything, and then the cycle repeats. You never end up making a progress because you can't stick with anything. We know the only way to make progress is to stick with something for long enough. Combine that with,
you get actual data from doing that.
yeah,
That's something that a lot of people don't understand too, is like, as a coach, I cannot make changes to the plan if you are not hitting the plan because I don't know the data from the plan. Like, there's no concrete data if you're not hitting the execution.
yeah, exactly. So like sticking to one thing is hard enough in its own when it comes to that sort of thing. But at least the information's there. Like if you're mentally disciplined enough and you have delayed gratification to a certain enough extent that you could probably make some progress based on the information you have. But when it comes to functional health, it gets more complicated because there's not an official course for it. There are certain certifications for it, but a lot of what we do is based on what many, many, many people have trial and errored over years and years of time. And this is where it gets a little bit uncomfortable when you talk between, doctors, physicians, and things like that. It's because that is a college degree. That is the highest form of certification. But it doesn't fix most issues. What does fix most issues is learning how it actually works at the root cause. But there is no formal education for that. There are some certifications for that. And even within those, there is still a degree of differences in approaches. So you really do have to learn. And I think a lot of us get into this with experiences of our own, like Mac, you with hormones and reverse dieting and energy, and myself with gut health and acne and bodybuilding, that it starts with that. And you're like, well, I know I did what it took to figure out how to fix that. But now I want to know how I could have done that better. But once you start to do that,
Or not even gotten there in the first place.
yeah, how to prevent that. And then kind of like with fitness, right? Like you mentioned, you learn more about, training and nutrition, and then you wanted to help other people not make the same mistakes you did. And so there's that. And then very quickly you start to realize how closely interrelated everything is. When you dial into the gut and acne, you're like, well, maybe my thyroid numbers were off. I happened to have better thyroid when I improved my gut. Interesting. What's the interconnection there? And then you start to relate autoimmunity. Then you start to relate hormones with things like, for women, PCOS, low testosterone, estrogen dominance, whatever it is. And you're like, this is all connected. If you really did to the root cause, it's all connected. So There is not a lot of courses and education on that. There are very successful people like Justin Mahaley, one of them, who have learned how to do this many, 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 many of times in very repeatable ways and have seen all of it. You go to those people and they mentor you. They teach you what they know. You learn what they know. You do what they how they would do it. And then in the meantime, maybe you take on other mentors or things like that as well to say, well, maybe there's different ways to do it. I would like to know those too. So that's really, and to answer your question, that's how I feel about the courses and functional health and how that plays in is there's no solid way to do it. Like you said, you have to experience it and let it play out in front of your eyes
Yeah.
and then have people that are there to teach you as soon as something happens, because it never works out the way you think it's going to. You can plan out all the way down how you're going to fix gut health, thyroid hormones, and then something happens with them where they react funny to a supplement, whatever it is. You go to those mentors, you figure it out, and you keep moving, and you know, it moves on from there. So anyway, long-winded answer. That's how I would answer that question.
No, great answer. And not, I don't say this to toot me and Riley's horn, but I genuinely think that that era of fitness coaches that are focused on like macros, calories, whatever, not that that's not important, because it is. I think they're going to be phased out and phased out fast, especially with AI, because I'm going to be honest, AI can do all that for you.
Yeah, AI can
They
do
can
all of
create
that.
you a tracker and like, okay, have me with a rate of change of X amount of pounds per, and you don't have to pay someone $500 a month. That's probably using ChatGPT for your stuff anyway. I'm just being honest.
Exactly. If you are a coach and you are using GPT, your job is on the line. You will not be coaching for very
Yeah,
long.
and also like, we're getting off topic, but it's okay because I want to say this. But like, what are you gonna do realistically if like the federal government like banned AI
Yeah,
or put
and all,
restrictions on AI?
well, that's a big concern. And then also for anyone listening, if there's anything to take away from this topic at all, ChatGPT is wrong.
It is a liar, and it's not only a liar, but it fabricates.
It fabricates information. It will, if you don't know how to defend yourself and you are not educated enough to understand how to utilize GPT for yourself as a coach or as an athlete, if you do not know how to challenge it, if you do not know how to call it out on where it's wrong, because if you don't know what's wrong, you won't know how to do that, you will end up down a very long rabbit hole that by the end of it, you will end up in a very bad position. And at the end of your bad experience, you could just simply say, hey, this happened. I think what you said was wrong. And after months of struggle, it would say, oh, yeah, you're right. I didn't think about this. And you're like, I am
Oh,
down
thanks
a
for
month.
catching that.
I am down a
Thanks for
6 month
catching that.
rabbit hole with ChatGPT about thinking it's going to improve my health. It got me worse. And then there's no one to hold it accountable because all it said was, oh, yeah, I didn't consider that. Sorry. I apologize. That should have happened. You're in a bad position. Maybe you go see a doctor. Anyway, so if any point gets made, just know that ChatGPT is wrong. It lies, it fabricates. If you use it for yourself, be very careful. It can be helpful. If you use it as a coach,
You need to read through it
it better be
and not
because you
just
know
copy
what
and
you're doing
paste,
first. Yes.
please.
So,
Especially because, like, especially if you're in the functional space, you have people's health in your hands, quite literally.
yeah, yeah. Do not use. I would just do not use GPT. It sounds cool in theory. It sounds cool, but have mentors. Find people. Pay them enough money. It's expensive. I know, right? Pay the money. Learn from people who know how this stuff works, and that's how you get good at functional health or learning how to handle functional side of your own.
I have never once, even if the like when I first got into ECA, I was like, oh, this feels like a lot of money. Like, oh, that kind of like scarcity feeling. But I have never once regretted like paying for a mentorship or paying for a course or anything. Like, even if you have that feeling of like, oh God, I hope this is worth it. If you do your research prior and you're not just like getting an ad and being like, oh, that sounds interesting, I'm gonna sign up, I don't think you're gonna regret it. And you'll probably, coaches speaking, you'll make that money back.
But yeah, I have spent. I would not be comfortable admitting how much money I have spent on education. I mean, and this is I don't know what this is. Most people spend their money on toys and trips and fun. I spend my money on courses. I have spent all of my money on courses.
Yeah.
And that's why we are here. we're here. But I think that's, you and I met that way in ECA, in Elite Coaching Academy, learning from people who know how to handle this stuff. And now, right, we are much
And
better
realizing
for
how
it.
little I actually know every day. I'm like, okay. Which actually, I think a lot of people could see that as like an ego dump, but I'm like, great. I have a ton more to know. Like, I'm not even close to where I think I am.
Yeah, being comfortable with accepting what you don't know. The worst thing you can be, I don't want to say that. That's a little harsh, but it is very dangerous to protect yourself against the things that you don't know, because you don't know what you
Yeah.
don't know. And then especially if people are paying you for your knowledge and you are a person who's scared to accept the things that you don't know, it's only a matter of time. You're going to hurt people. You're going to have a bad reputation, and you may not even know it because you have such a big blind side that you don't know what you did
Right.
wrong. But for instance, if we see coaches that are, like general fitness coaches that take on, brand new clients who want to get in shape, and they're getting a bunch of bloating, and they're feeding them a bunch of FODMAPs and a bunch of carbs, and they're making quite, in this case, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. They're making it worse, and they have no idea why. They're like, "Oh, you're just bloated because you've been
Or
eating shitty
like,
food."
let's get you this probiotic from Amazon. Maybe
Yeah,
that'll
let's take this probiotic. It'll get better. It doesn't get better. And then it gets
make it
swept under the
worse.
rug, right? You're over here glorifying your best clients, and then the ones that, it's like, well, I couldn't figure it out. Sorry. And then,
Sorry, you're still under contract. I know nothing we're doing is working.
yeah, exactly. And then they end up with us. And we say that because we see this way too many times. But
And then we're like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Sorry you went through that. Really
exactly.
sucks. Let's
So,
change that around for you.
yeah. And so we see a lot. We see people that come from doctors who have, I mean, I've worked with a guy who's been in and out of doctors his entire life. We're fixing things that have been in and out of, he's been out of doctors his entire life. He's 40 or 50 years old at this point.
And this is a big reason why. Don't get me wrong, I still love coaching like the average lifestyle person who's like, I just want to like look better naked and like grow my glutes. Like I love doing that. I love that so much, and that's still very gratifying for me. But it got really, really, really old. Just like talking about people's bodies all day, like their outward appearance. And it was
Yeah.
honestly kind of draining, especially which that kind of like being in bodybuilding, that's kind of like contraindicates it because I'm like looking at people's bodies all day and like people are
Mhm.
analyzing my body.
Mhm.
But it just like I was like, I know that I can do such more powerful things than like, yay, this person like lost 50 pounds, which is great. Like that's awesome. But how much better it would be if they lost 50 pounds, fixed their bloating, they have energy, they don't feel cold all the time, like they can eat different foods than like these five selected foods without like blowing up or getting constipated. It just goes so much further than like the scale is down, I look leaner, people are telling me I lost weight. Like I want it to be you have transformed into a whole new individual and your quality of life has improved so much that like you can't even imagine living like that again.
Yeah, 100%. And whatever you thought was permanent, like I'm going to be on thyroid medication my whole life. I can't eat gluten for the rest of my life. They've done studies, right? Gluten intolerance is mostly in your head. Like unless you have true celiac disease, they've done studies where there are people who've gotten so in their head about gluten intolerance,
Hmm.
they fed them gluten, didn't have responses. Those people only get responses when they think they're eating gluten. It is
Which I was
quite
actually,
literally in their head.
I don't want to say arguing, but I guess I don't know what you want to call it. Debating, educating, I don't know. Someone on Threads, which I just love going on there now. I just love going on Threads now and seeing what people are saying. So with Hashimoto's specifically, especially active Hashimoto's. So when I say active, I mean not in remission. Antibodies are still raised. We're still having an immune response to the thyroid. I always pull gluten, always. And she
But yeah.
posted,
Oh, for sure. Yeah, yeah.
she posted something that said, um, something my I will never pull gluten or dairy for my Hashimoto's, blah blah blah. My endocrinologist and dietitian said that I should not do that. It is not necessary. And I said, I would absolutely recommend pulling gluten for active Hashimoto's. And she sent me like a little gift that was like a guy shaking his head no. And I was like, okay, I don't mean this to say rude, be rude at all or like undermine what they're saying. But I explained to her, like, okay, gluten possesses molecular mimicry to the thyroid. And I explained that. Once again, not trying to be rude because I never want people to think like, oh, this girl's like a know it all, or like she thinks what I should do with my life, or like
Yeah.
anything like that.
Yeah.
Um, but I totally agree with what you're saying. And that's the thing, too, is with standard Western endocrinology, dietetics, whatever, one, it's funded by the federal government. And their education is funded by the federal government. But that's a whole entire loophole to go down in kind of like their biases with that. But I feel like they don't, from what I found with clients, random people on threads apparently, they don't dive into lifestyle things.
Yeah.
Not that being gluten free is necessarily like a lifestyle thing, but like
It can be
things that we,
temporarily.
yeah,
Temporarily.
things that we talk about with our clients, like grounding, like how is your mindset going into a meal? How is your mindset before going into bed? What's the first thing you think of when you wake up? None of that, I find, is discussed. Maybe with like a mental health therapist, but not with your standard endocrinologist. Like that's just kind of like waved over. It's like, okay, well, like here's this T4. It should help a little,
Yeah.
maybe, hopefully.
Well, and again, it's symptoms. It's like, guy goes to doctor with low T and they say, well, I don't know the reason why, but let's just replace it. It's like there's a
Yeah.
reason why testosterone was low. And with men, with men and testosterone, it's sometimes a little more straightforward, right? You don't get like good communication anymore. Maybe you got a back injury. Maybe, your signaling is burnt out from years of PED use or whatever it is. But a lot of the times, like, I've had guys with 200 testosterone that end up at like 600 because of lifestyle and diet and sleep habits and supplements, and then things you can do in the temporary short term to really boost that higher, you know what I mean? Certain supplements to help give you that boost initially, because we know that higher testosterone leads to better body composition and better health. So if you help that in the meantime, then you give that your entire body better signaling while you improve that signaling. Because a lot of times, some, like poor, for instance, here's a good example. Good bacteria in your gut helps break down nutrients and extract nutrients from food, which would give you better like mental health and energy and things like that. All the things that micronutrients are used for, thyroid, whatever it is, right? But you need those good micronutrients to have good mental energy, thyroid, whatever it is. But if you have bad gut health, then it keeps getting worse and worse because you're not getting the nutrients, you're not getting what you need, and then you don't want to eat. You might make your gut health worse, and it
Mhm.
cascades from there.
Which
And
once
so,
again, it's like everything's a feedback loop. Going back to the low testosterone, like chronically elevated stress is going to cause low testosterone, but higher testosterone is going to help your resiliency to stress.
100%, yeah. So
So
if you
it's
if you're like, well, let's just replace testosterone and don't change anything else, then stress doesn't just affect testosterone; it affects thyroid. You could get, it affects your gut, which could lead to an autoimmunity of some sort, right? And so if you're just saying, well, let's replace testosterone and not address any of the other things, then more things are going to break. You might end up on more medication. That's why they say, "Oh, why do I end up on more and more medication?" It's like, well, it's because everything's interconnected, and you're just tackling different symptoms, never the root, and it gets worse and worse and worse. Um, but learning how to again address that from a root cause standpoint, it's a lot simpler than people normally think. I mean, it's never simple to say no more in your life. It's never simple to learn how to be less stressed. It's never simple to be, to take things out of your life that shouldn't be there, that's not letting you be biologically safe, especially if it's a partner, right? Most people's body is not biologically safe and is responding as such if they're with a partner that they should not be with. But
yeah,
that's not easy. That's much more difficult than just replacing whatever hormones are degrading as a result of lack of biological safety way upstream,
yeah,
whatever it is.
yeah, and it's crazy too. Like I'm sure you've seen this too, with no influence by you. Like, hey, you should divorce your wife, or like, hey, you should break up with your boyfriend.
But know
Like,
the real consequences of what's happening.
people start feeling better and they're like, I think I need to boot this person. Or like, I think I need to boot this job. Or whatever it is. I think I need to move across country or get out of this environment or change roommates or like whatever. It's just very interesting because like you could tell anyone like, yeah, of course your environment affects your internal environment. Like that's common sense, but it's crazy when you see it actually play out.
Yes.
Like see someone's physiology shift and it click in their brain like, wait, I also need to change this going on. Like
Yeah.
supplements aren't going to do carry all the load, and I know Justin talks about this all the time too, but like you're not going to heal in a toxic environment
Yeah. It's not going to happen. And even if you do, if
or
things
toxic
improve,
mindset.
yeah.
Which if you're like this isn't going to work. I'll try it anyways, but I know it's not going to work. It's not going to work.
And even if it does temporarily, you will relapse. You will go back. It will end up back where it was. So that's, yeah, that is a lot to learn as far as like the functional health side of things. Hopefully that explains the functional health side of things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think yeah, we'll definitely talk about that a bunch more. But to go back to your story,
Yeah, I guess kind of going back to my story, going to where I am today. So that, like I said, that is kind of why I got away from standard fitness coaching is because I knew that I could do so much more with the knowledge base that I had, but knowing that I was expanding on that as well. I was like, man, like so this person has been passed to coach to fitness coach to fitness coach, and they've like done all the same things, and they've said like nothing's working. Like there's something being missed. There's something being missed. So I just was like, I need to put this knowledge to use because I'm doing people a disservice if I just have this knowledge and don't do anything with it. Like that's really unfair to people who need that. Hence why I am coaching for ECA, EFH now because I can do both. Like, and let's be real, like everyone, most want to look in the mirror and be like, I really like what I see. But it goes hand in hand with that because this is yet another reason why if you are especially a bodybuilding coach and you don't have any functional health like background at all, like I don't think you're going to get very far. Especially if PEDs are in use and you don't know how to read labs or maybe like you kind of know how to read labs or like okay, this is out of reference range, but you don't see how it all ties together. Your end time is coming if you don't get after that.
yeah, yeah. Like reading between the lines in blood work, like what are we seeing from like eosinophils if those are too high, right? Gut health issues, right? How we're seeing, you know, one that I don't think a lot of people know about is like homocysteine levels.
Hmm.
That being a better indicator of vitamin B absorption and utilization and related to like methylation, right? Because you can look at your vitamin B levels and be like, oh, they have a 1500 B12, which is a very high B12, and most people do because if you're taking a
If you're
multivitamin.
supplementing, yeah, they usually, yeah.
But if you have a gene variant, the MTHFR gene variant, then you're not utilizing those B vitamins as well as you should. But you're not going to see that in your blood work. You're going to see high, serum levels, but you're not going to be able to see utilization of those. So, helps break homocysteine, which is a toxic, a toxic compound, you might call it, in the body. And B vitamins are a part of that. So if you don't have that gene that's able to utilize B vitamins, your homocysteine levels are going to be higher. You're like, oh, okay, interesting. But if you're not good at blood work, then you might not know that that's the case. You might see, okay, all these levels are good. Homocysteine, well, I don't know, that's a little bit high. Maybe they're eating a lot of protein or something. But that's just another example.
I mean, too, even if someone's labs look good, like with functional reference ranges, not necessarily like the reference ranges, say they look good, you can still see patterns between different kind of like subsections. Because I think a lot of people will be like, okay, here's the CBC. How does the CBC look? Here's how the liver looks. Period. And just like seeing everything so separately, which this is another reason why I had to get out of like just the general fitness space, is because most of these people are salespeople.
Yeah.
Like or like they're salespeople or influencers, clout chasers, and it's just so irritating to me, to say the least. Like, of course somebody wants to work with somebody that has an amazing physique and is sponsored by XYZ and
Or are they an
travels.
IFBB pro? Like you want to look
Yeah,
good, they're an IFBB
of
pro.
course, people are going to be drawn to that. That's natural human nature.
Yeah.
But I've seen what they do to people and how they treat people, and it's just it makes me feel like somebody like in a cage, like let me help.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
It's hard to get through, but they don't, I mean, either they don't know what they don't know, which is common, or they're aware of what they don't know and they don't care.
which, to be fair, I do think, and maybe this is me being ignorant, which is fine. I do think that everybody operates with good intentions for the most part. I think everyone is trying to do the best that they can with the knowledge they have, and they're not trying to shortchange anyone or like trying to make someone sick or like not help them. But like you said, it's like you don't know what you don't know, and if you don't try to expand your knowledge base or stay curious, you're not even going to know what you don't know. You're just going to think, "Yeah, I know everything. I'm the best coach ever."
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Or
so
and it's not comfortable, right? Because and I've done this a lot. Like I don't want to say an issue with, but I try new things all the time, and then when I get started on them, I can't stop. So I'm very aware of like this curve of like when you start with something, you're very confident,
mhm.
and then you start to learn more about what you don't know, and then you learn more and more about what you don't know. Now you know less and feel worse about yourself than you did before you even got started. At square one, think about that. I don't know anything about health and fitness, so I'm going to start learning. Versus at the bottom of that curve, once you start getting into it, start learning more about what you don't know, and now you're here, you are aware of everything that you didn't know when you were at square one, and you feel way worse. This is where most people quit. And if you don't have delayed gratification, that's where you quit. If you don't have
Mhm.
discipline, that's where you quit. Most people, they get excited about things, get confident about things, start to learn what they don't know, it gets hard, and then they stop. So with coaches, you're like, you can either,
Interruptions. They do their first bodybuilding show, they take the overall, start coaching everyone, and then they think they know everything.
yeah, and you can get really confident, right? If you don't chase your blind sides, right? If you're not actively pursuing knowledge or actively asking for feedback, you can live at the top of that confidence curve for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
You can live there forever.
And it's a scary thing. That would be honestly one of my worst fears.
That is a dangerous place to be because you can hurt people and you will never know it. But it feels good, right? That is a selfish thing to do, is to live here and promote yourself at this situation where you're so confident but you know very little. And which is fine, you can be confident and know very little, but and not be willing to learn and get uncomfortable and face all of the things that you don't know and ask why. But then, okay, so here's this little curve, like here we're on a graph. Here's this little world that a lot of people live in. And then you're way down here. This is where things really get shitty and you don't know anything. And I know nothing. I don't know what to do. I'm freaking out. And then you take the next 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 20 years to where you finally get up. Now you're an expert. That's what it means to be an
And
expert.
even at that point, there's still things you don't know.
There will never be you will never
Which
know everything.
none of us are going to be all knowing, which we
You,
shouldn't be.
you will never know everything, especially like when it comes to functional health, like we said, there are always new things coming out. The human body is so complicated. There are always new ways of doing things. There's always new ways of figuring things out. There's always new peptides. There's always new combinations of
Also, new
peptides.
literal like molecules being found.
Yes, we are
Like
we are creating sequences of amino acids that are keys that unlock different locks in your bodies, and we don't fully know how it works, and you will never know what to do. So to have a network of people that you trust, to have mentors that have been doing this for a very long time who understand how the human body works and can kind of look out for how things can negatively interact potentially. That's the most important part. But if you live way over here,
yeah, and it's a never-ending pipeline. I have a mentor. My mentor has a mentor.
yes.
That mentor has a mentor. Like I don't know who's at the very top of that chain, but I'm sure they have a mentor too. I think it just I think it just keeps going. Or maybe like the person at the top of the chain doesn't have a mentor in functional health, but maybe they have a mentor in tire rotation. I don't know. No idea. That was like the first thing I thought of.
Yeah, yeah. You got people with like different interests, right? Like people who have like went and got physics degrees, you know what I mean? Like a name that, if you've ever heard of Justin Harris in Tripona Nutrition, he's somebody I looked up to quite a bit for most of my fitness and bodybuilding career. Like he went and did a physics degree because he thought it would be fun. He knows he's got different connections in his brain about how things work than people who didn't.
Yeah.
So he's got different theories that, with a mind like that, you start with first principles and you always prove things through equation. Like, well, if this equals this and this is true and this equals this, then these things must also be true. And if you have that logic with the human body, it's like you're going to come to different conclusions than someone else who isn't, taking that same approach. You know what I mean? So like that mentor, this mentor, this mentor, and thinking in different ways about, well, what do you think it should be? Then trying it, then sticking with it, and then learning, right? Being willing to accept that, look, things will go wrong, but I'm willing to work through and stick with this approach for long enough to know why it was wrong and never do that again. And then do that for hundreds and hundreds of different scenarios over time.
Coaches need to accept too is like, you're gonna be wrong.
Yeah, you're gonna fuck up.
You're going to. Mm-hmm. You're gonna be wrong.
You're gonna fuck up, and you got to be honest.
You cannot get into that cycle of, well, if you do, I guess then you need to dive deeper into this. But you cannot get into that cycle of, I can't do this anymore. I was wrong.
Yeah, you got to be wrong. You got to be willing to be wrong, and that goes back to the ego thing. If you're the type of person who's not willing to look for the things that you don't know and take that uncomfortable path down into now I know nothing, you're probably going to be the same person with too much of an ego to accept that you'll never be wrong. And if you can never be wrong, then you will never be right. You will never be right. If you can't be wrong, you will never be right.
No.
That's called an echo chamber.
Literally. Yeah.
Of some sorts.
So true. And that was another reason why I don't want to say left, but just like kind of changed directions a little bit of like the general fitness space, is because it was starting to feel too simplified.
Yeah.
Like just too, okay, another person who wants to lose fat, let's lose fat. I don't want to say there wasn't a time I went wrong, because obviously there were plenty of times earlier in my career, but like to where I am now, it's like, okay, like it's not really like a challenge, which once again, I don't say this to like toot my horn, but I wanted to have something where I was like, whoa, like this person has a lot going on. We need to take this step by step. Not like, okay, what are they eating now? How's their lifestyle? Let's get them on these macros. Awesome. We're seeing results. Perfect. It just felt too simplified for me at that point.
Yeah, you wanted to get into, I think by now we very well explained functional health. You wanted to get into that. That was the exciting thing.
That's where I am now. Like I said, still with the combo of like physique stuff, because that still ties in. And like I was saying, eventually all coaches are going to need to know this in order to retain any sort of position in the industry.
Yeah. And it's always something to address, right? Like you can, I've always, I don't know if this is a term, I've always called it this, but you can create metabolic leverage, right? By getting rid of resistances. It's like, would you rather get in the best shape of your life by never doing more than 15 sets a training session or 30 minutes of cardio? Or would you rather get in the best shape of your life by doing twice as many sets in a session, 2 hours, 3 hours in the gym, and 2 hours of cardio a day, and then just be exhausted and not have anything left for a family or anything else you're doing in life? Well, what's the difference? Well, there's a root cause where your body's resisting you, and your body will win. Your body's going to win. Willpower will win.
That reminds me of something.
The body will win.
People have asked me like, okay, so would you consider yourself like a biohacker? I said, no. I don't really think biohacking is real, because I don't think you can hack biology. Biology is pretty set in stone. Yeah. But you can work with biology.
Yeah. I agree with that. So there's nothing more hacking. It just feels like hacking this day because people are so messed up. They're like, no, you're just removing shit that shouldn't be there. Like, dude, quit working so much. You know what I mean? Like whatever it is, I get it. But one thing feeds another feeds the same thing that fed the first thing. Is that like, if you feel like shit, you're going to take longer to do your work. You're going to need more time to do your work and get stuff done and meet deadlines. Now you're going to be always working, and then you're going to feel more like shit. And now you just have too much work to do and are never getting much of it done with super shitty energy. Like instead, how do we biohack, your body to remove stress to where like, well, if you had more energy, you could be more productive, so on and so forth. It's just like removing of things that we are determined are the biggest movers as coaches, or adding things that we have found to be the biggest movers as coaches, and then getting your body back to baseline, not necessarily hacking. For sure, I agree
The
with
only
that.
thing that the only thing that I would say would be hacking. Well, maybe not the only thing, but the thing that comes to mind right now is people doing like, which I don't do, I don't dabble with any of this, but like reverse aging stuff.
But yeah, like
And
longevity, sure,
I
yeah,
would say that's kind of biohacking. I don't know
yeah,
enough about it to speak on it. But the
yeah.
work that I do, I would not consider biohacking.
I agree
I
with
think
that.
it's working with biology,
Yeah.
alongside biology. Do you have more questions for me, Riley? I know you only asked like one, but do you have any other questions?
Well, I think that really explained a ton of it, but I really wanted to know like what kind of things that came up along the way while you're explaining those, like what kind of kid were you, right?
Mm,
Like who were
yeah.
you who were
So
you growing up?
I said I was an only child. I was an only child, which I think that plays a lot into like how I existed within my teenage years. I felt like not that I like didn't have friends. I did have friends, but I was still very like shy-ish. Like I didn't want to share too much. I didn't want to share too much of my personal life, share too much of my emotions, like just very I'll be your friend, but I'm not telling you like how my home life is. I'm not telling you that.
Were
Not
you
saying I'm not telling
close?
you that, but like back then I was very what?
Were you close with your parents? Were you
Yeah,
very
so
close?
I'm getting into that. So like I
Okay.
am very, very, very close with my mom. And this is where the repression for me started. So my dad actually passed when I was eight.
Oh man, I'm
Eight.
sorry.
So thanks. I don't even think you knew that.
I
But
I I,
I'm very
I kind of
open.
did, sort of.
Yeah, I'm very open with talking about that right now. Not that I'm gonna go tell somebody on the street that randomly, but
Yeah.
like if somebody asks me, I'm not gonna like refrain from telling them.
Yeah. That's
But
life-changing.
back then, that was extremely hard for me to talk about, especially because like I don't think at that age I had compartmentalized what like life and death is.
Yeah.
It was just like people are alive and then they're not. But I didn't think like that would happen to people that I know.
Yeah.
So I remember I remember very clearly like my mom telling me what had happened. And I was like, okay. I think it just kind of like went through my head. Like I was like, okay, like dad's not coming home. All right. Just like carry on with my life. Just like that's when like the repression started. I go back to school because I was out of school for maybe like a week, 2 weeks, I don't know. And somehow, I don't know, I'm assuming my teachers knew, but somehow these kids also knew, which I think that's very wrong. But anyways, they would say like, "Oh, I'm sorry about your dad, whatever," and I would blow it off like, "What are you talking about?" Like
Mm.
lie, straight up lie, which I now realize was just like a protective mechanism
Yeah.
from myself
Yeah.
because my brain didn't want me to believe that.
Yeah. I could only imagine if you were an 8-year-old and your brain didn't have an ability to do that, that would be very scary.
Yeah, so I was like lying to these people, and then I was like feeling guilty because like as a kid I was like, I know I shouldn't lie.
Yeah.
I was like, what are you talking about? Like I was like just playing it off.
Yeah.
And like it went a lot of my life like that. Like through middle school, people would be like, "Oh, something, your dad." I'd be like, "Oh, my parents are divorced. I don't see him." Just very like leave it. Um, and even during then, I was like, "Why do I keep doing this? Like, am I just like keep feeling like I have to keep up with this lie? Like, what is it?" Because I don't know. I think it was like back then. I was like, I think I just don't want to receive sympathy. I don't know how to go about that. I don't know how to receive it because it was like, thanks for saying I'm sorry, but there's and I don't feel like this now. But like, thanks for saying sorry, but like, there's nothing you can do about it. So like, thanks.
Yeah.
It's okay. I don't know.
Yeah.
And my mind just like couldn't grapple with any of it. So I was like, it's way better if people just don't ask me questions about it and I just carry on. So I went about that for a very, very, very long time until it got to a point where I realized like, I cannot keep carrying this because I feel like I'm living a false life. And I
Hmm.
almost started to feel like this is disrespectful to my father's life to like lie about this, which I don't think he would necessarily be like, yeah, that's disrespectful.
But
But
it is understandable.
it just started feeling wrong. So I did when this all like happened. My mom did put me in therapy at like a young age to like try to see like she was like, okay, I don't know because she's obviously going through her own death of a partner in a much different way than I am,
Yeah.
but also the father of her child, and I'm an only child. So it's just like I can't even imagine what was going through her head because I don't even know what was going through mine. I was just kind of like nothing, as sad as that is. Um, but I did go to therapy, and like this therapist was asking me questions, and looking back, I'm like, this is not somebody who is like tailored to work with children, in my opinion, because she was asking me questions, and I'm like, dude, I don't know, like. And anyways, I ended up not seeing that through because I was like, I don't like this random lady trying to get information about my dad. Like it was almost like an investigator.
Yeah.
That's kind of like how it felt. From there, I wasn't even planning on talking about this, but I guess I will. From there, that is when I started like going into teenage years, going forward. I started to kind of get a little bit rebellious.
Mm-hmm.
But it was from I started seeking, looking back, I started seeking a father figure, not in a sexual way, but in like I want a male companionship because I didn't have like a male brother, I didn't really have any male friends. I wanted some sort of male companionship. Thereby, it was the pipeline, which I'm sure a lot of females listening to this will totally understand what I'm talking about. Talking to like random men online, no idea who they are,
Mm.
with no like romantic interest. But of course they did because it's like, oh, there's this young girl talking online. Was I probably talking to predators? Yes, absolutely. Especially with Riley, I don't know if you know what kick is. Actually, we talked about this before, and you're like, I don't know what kick is, but you
No,
know, like
I
another.
had no idea what that is. Yeah.
So kick is like a chat room place, basically. And like I was talking to these people, and my mom found out, and obviously she was like very upset because she was like, this is unsafe, which it was. I was talking to these people that I have no idea who they are. And I was just trying to like look for someone to talk to, basically. But these were definitely like older men. I don't know how old. There were some that were like maybe I was like 12 and they were 17, but there were definitely some where I was like 12 and they were like 30. So I was definitely being like groomed by these people. Even if I was like, no, they're just my friend, whatever. So I definitely struggled with that for a long time, just seeking male comfort, I guess. And then that also took me a long time to realize like, okay, why did I do that? Because even back then I knowingly knew like, hey, I'm putting myself in a pretty dangerous situation if these people can like track my IP address or like they have my phone number, they know my address, whatever. Um so as a kid, that kind of briefly overviews that section, which I did have a great relationship with my dad, but it definitely brought me and my mom very close because we had to
Yeah.
be like we had to lean on each other or else like the dynamic wasn't going to work.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's definitely shifted me into who I am today. Not to say like I'm happy it happened, but I do am one of those people who think like everything does happen for a reason, even if it's bad things.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you think that played into your choice to go into like fitness and health and maybe like some of the like eating disorders or anything like that? Do you
I
think that
don't know if it played into like fitness and health per se, the eating disorder for sure,
how
because
so?
I think it came from the idea that like men don't like fat girls.
Mm,
You cannot gain weight because you need that male validation.
mm,
Even if like I don't think any of it was coming from a romantic standpoint of like wanting male validation because that's not what I was looking for. I
yeah.
didn't want like a boyfriend. I didn't want anything like that. It was, but I knew like, okay, these men aren't gonna want to like have a friendship with a fat girl.
Mm,
Which is sad to say, but I knew that was true in my case, or I convinced myself it was true. Not to say like men don't like fat women because there's plenty of them that like desire a larger woman. But that was what made sense in my brain, I think, even if I
yeah.
didn't compute it then. And I was like, okay, you can't gain weight if you want to have this male connection, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you're like any hint or sense of what could potentially make you look or feel like obese in any way? You're like, nope, not doing it. Not doing it.
Mhm.
Food, no chance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. So then, like going into like high school and college, when you were off by yourself, like how did you progress through that? Like to kind of bridge the gap, I guess, like between that
Yeah.
rebellion, then being on your own. Because when you're alone,
Yeah.
really, because I did the same. Like as soon as I think it was 17 or 18, went to college, lived by myself, and it's been the same ever since. You learn a lot about yourself, right? Like so, like what?
That was when I kind of stopped, like, I stopped the whole like talking to random men online. At this point, I kind of started just like not really caring, I guess. Like at this point, I did have a boyfriend that I met on the internet who lived across the country. So that obviously made me stop talking to like random men online because I had a man to talk to that I met online, basically. Which I won't get into that. But the rebellion, the rebellion kind of like settled down. Plus, this was during the eating disorder time, so like I didn't want to go to parties. I knew alcoholic calories.
Mm,
I didn't want to do that. I also did not feel I did this I fell down this whole eating disorder to like not gain weight, feel confident, feel hot, whatever. I did not feel any of those things. Shocker, right? Shocker.
yeah, yeah.
I like didn't want to go network, socialize. I didn't want that. I
You
wanted
like
to
didn't
just
have confidence, you think, to do that?
yeah, and like I got to a point where I was like I am jealous of all of these people being able to live like a normal life because that is what I grasped to so hard. Like I wanted to be able to go to the dining hall and eat a burger.
Mm,
And it made me so like jealous of these people. Not that they were doing anything wrong. They were just living their life.
yeah.
I was like, why can't I do that like a normal functioning human? Like that's a
Uh,
very normal behavior.
so you almost had like just as like a underlying maybe a resentment towards almost
Totally.
anyone that you would talk to.
Totally. Anyone who was like normal or
Uh,
like normal by societal standards, I was like, not like you suck, but I was like, I don't know how you do it.
yeah,
I'm
you're
just
like we are not the same. I don't get along with you.
like I don't relate to you on any level.
Yeah,
I don't know. So
that's
I
hard.
pretty much just like didn't really make any friends. Like just kind of stayed in my own lane. And I was gonna mention, oh, it would almost be silly as this sounds. It would almost be kind of triggering to me when I would see like, for example, I had roommates that they were like they didn't have any issues really with food or anything, which I do think like pretty much any college age woman is going to have some body image issue going on. I think that's just the world we live in, as sad as it is. Not that I like want it to continue that way, but I think that's just kind of the reality. They would like order food into the dorm, and I remember being like, I can't be in there when they're eating because I was scared of like
Mm,
smelling it, and then that triggering the emotion of reminding me like, hey, you can't do this. You're not allowed to eat that, which nobody's putting these rules on me. It's just me, the voice in my head to myself, like, you're not allowed to eat it. This is really messed up to say, but this is probably why I'm good at bodybuilding prep. Because like it doesn't feel it is so messed up to say because it's not a comparable thing at
it's
all. Because
comfortable. It's familiar. You're like, I can do this.
yeah,
Oh,
realistically, and you can probably say the same thing. You probably eat more in a contest prep setting than your average American does
for
calorically.
sure. People
Like
see us in contests, but they're like, "You're eating again?"
literally, literally.
Yeah,
So I think it's more so not calorically wise, but the rigidity, the routine, the
yeah,
structure is all very familiar to me.
that makes sense. Yeah,
So that's why bodybuilding is so safe to me is
yeah,
because of the routine, even though it looks very different. And I'm definitely not one of those people because I do see this. Like people still trying to like hide their past eating disorder with bodybuilding.
yeah,
Which realistically, that's only going to work for so long. And that only works in a contest prep setting because you're going to have to gain some body fat. If you need to build muscle, you're going to need to gain some body fat, put some weight on. So that's only going to work for so long to guide that before you're like, okay, this is not for me. I do think it works for maybe like your first couple shows, or if you try to like really hang on to being lean, or you tell your coach, yeah, I'm hitting the plan, but you're actually not, which doesn't serve you at all. Um,
Or like just like fighting and repressing different things. Like bodybuilding to me, and I have another question for you after this, but bodybuilding to me, your body really does have to be safe. You have to feel safe and comfortable in what you're doing. If you're trying to prep because you're going through a breakup, or if you are trying to, pursue bodybuilding for any other reason than you feel it's what's best for you, it's going to show up. It's going to show up in some ways, and it's going to make things worse. And like you will again face what it is that you're running from or repressing, whether it be some sort of eating disorder, some sort of trauma, whatever it is. Like,
mhm.
and sometimes it's funny because those traumas can take you really far. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
we kind of went through this with Nick Comodina at the beginning of the year. Is like, man, some people make it to 30, 40, $50 million uh, net worths before they start to really dive in because it drove them that far, which is kind of
yeah.
good and
What
bad.
he said was absolutely insane. If you guys have never heard him speak, one, prepare yourself before you hear him speak, because it is going to be shell shocking
Yeah.
to your core. It is going to shock you through your core, but you should.
Yeah.
You
No, but
should.
that definitely makes sense. Like how comfortable and normal and predictable it is too.
Very predictable.
But
And
I
that goes
also
back to my dad passing away too, because that I didn't predict. So if I can keep things predictable, keep things controlled, keep things like
uh,
rolling, like nothing bad can happen.
that makes sense. Because in the back
It
of your mind, you're like,
feels,
what?
but
Maybe something could happen. You're like, I don't know. That exists. One
yeah.
day I could wake up and things could be totally different. Yeah. Okay. So were you because one thing we all know about Mac is you are like the most social person there is.
Oh, thanks.
You know what I mean? Like anybody who knows Mac and anybody listening who doesn't know Mac, Mac will keep up with as many different conversations as into infinity.
I don't know when that happened,
That's what I'm
genuinely.
wondering. So were you
I
like
don't
a
know because I was not like that as a kid. As I said, like I kind of
yeah,
kept to myself, like didn't really want to share.
yeah. In college, like
Yeah,
you said,
college
maybe
I
like
was.
resented people, didn't really want to get along with people.
I just kind of kept to myself. Even early after college, post eating disorder, I not that I was antisocial by any means, but I wasn't like a social butterfly. I don't really know where that started. I think maybe like early 20s, I started viewing life as an opportunity for human connection in a sense. And I think even from like what we do, like our functional work, like I think you need to have like community is so underrated for your overall health.
Yeah. Yep.
Especially because like you and I both work from home. Like I could go weeks and weeks and weeks and not see a person. Well, I do go to the gym, but like I
You
could still
could.
go to the gym and
You
not
could.
talk to anyone.
Yeah.
I could just spend weeks like not sending voice memos and just typing everything out to my clients
You
and
you
not.
could potentially lock the doors in your house and never have to leave or talk to another person. You
Yeah,
could have your
I could
groceries
take care of my
delivered. You
food.
could you
Yeah,
you could do that. Besides the gym, like if you didn't go to the gym, you'd be fucked. But
yeah, I could build a home gym in the garage and
yeah,
yeah.
that could be possible.
So I think somewhere in like, well, this might have played into it too. So I had a really close friend in, well, I was friends with him from like middle school to like high school. Then we kind of drifted apart. I went to college. I resented everyone, yada, yada, yada. Not that I resented him specifically, but it was just kind of like every normal person, I was like, I don't know how to interact with you because all I'm thinking about is like, how do I look? How many calories have I had?
Oh, yeah.
Like, it was just like my brain was so bogged with that, I couldn't be present for anything. So we hadn't talked in a while, and he actually overdosed while I lived in Oregon. And I was like, it's funny because like whenever stuff like that happens in my personal like life journey, it's
Yeah.
like a couple months before I'm like, man, I haven't talked to this person in a while, and then I just carry on with my day.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's like a sign from God or what to like, hey, you should reach out to this person, but I definitely just brushed it off and was like, yeah, I haven't. Hope they're doing well, and just kind of kept moving along. And I think then I realized like you never know when it's gonna be the last time you talk to somebody.
Yeah.
So I was like, I just want to invite community And also, like, you never know what someone's going through. Like, maybe they feel left out all of the time, or like no one talks to them, or
Yeah.
like no one in their friend group likes them. And if I could just like change that for someone for a day, that just really makes my heart happy because I've been that person before where I'm like, I don't feel welcome here. Like, I don't feel welcome in the circle. And it's like such a shitty feeling.
Yeah. And to have one person go up and be like, "What's up? How are you?
Yeah.
Like, what are you
It's
doing?"
like, wow, I'm not invisible. Because I think
Yeah.
too, like, a lot of people go through life feeling so invisible. Like,
Yeah.
I could be here or I could not be here and nothing would change. Which, on like a macro aspect, like, none of us really matter.
Yeah. But
Like,
that's the cool part. That's where at the very least you could all get along because like none of us matter. Like this is
and
all
that's something
just
I think about all the time too, with like different nations arguing or like politics or stuff like that, which is all valid and whatever. But like, there's probably different species on different planets. Like, what if they invade us? Welcome to just like my thoughts that I have randomly. What if these like extraterrestrials or like different forms of humans invade us and we can't even fight back because we can't get along together? So like
yeah.
then we're all fucked.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. It takes all this stuff we do on a daily basis and changes perspective. And just the stuff we worry about, you know.
Yeah. I'm very excited to dive into your story though. 'Cause I don't really know that much about your upbringing. I know little bits and pieces, but
We will save that. That's cool. So to recap, you grew up, you were an only child. Um, you lost your dad when you were 8.
hmm
Were you close with both of them up until that point? Yeah. Okay. And then grew even closer with your mom. You've always been, so you were in sports and didn't like the team aspect as much just because it felt like there was a lot of
And I also
pressure.
think I'm just realizing this right now, but I think I also didn't like the team aspect because I felt like I would be like found out. Like they would know like the real me.
That's so interesting
Yeah.
to think about. Like, what do you think they would find out?
Well, like the stuff about my dad, but like
Oh,
I don't know. I just feel like for so long of my life, especially in like elementary school, I was trying to exist as someone else.
mm,
Like I was trying to act like the popular kids, or like I would like blow my cover, like I was like a spy or something. I don't know.
yeah, okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
Like I kind of need to like not get people too close because they're gonna know me. I don't want them to know me.
Just the person that you're trying to be.
Just like the shell, like they can know bits and pieces, but like I was like the mysterious girl, I guess.
It's so, that's crazy because I feel like a lot of people still just live that way
I know, and it's very
into infinity. And it also
sad.
makes it takes things into perspective too, because like I'm at an age, I'm turning 30 here pretty soon, which is kind of crazy. But I'm at this age where when people act a certain way or people do certain things, I'm like, okay, where's that coming from? I'm never like if Makenzie, if you blew up on me for some reason, I don't know. If you're like, what would you yell at me for? What could you yell at me for? What would,
Riley, you didn't upload the podcast on Thursday.
yeah. Why did you do that on Thursday? I'd be like, why? In my mind, I'd be sitting there thinking, okay, what's going on behind those thoughts? Why? You know what I mean? I'm not like God.
Bless you.
I'm not like Mac is just. It's just Mac. That's just who she is. She's just being.
Yeah.
I'm at a point where I never think that way. I'm always just like, well, okay, where is that coming from? Like, what is I always live by. I think there's a quote that's like, never blame the person, blame the problem, type of thing.
Oh yeah.
I think that one resonates the most because usually one of my biggest issues is I'm very understanding, right? But almost too understanding because then I let shit
Yeah,
slide.
I know. I know. I can put myself in basically anyone's shoes and be like, I see why they did that.
It's a good and a bad thing, right? Like
Yeah.
you understand, so you're not as butthurt. But two, like there's times where you should judge and outcast and remove a person. If you understand them, it makes it a little bit harder to do that. But that, yeah, it's just funny because I do feel like a lot of people live like that even now still, and then they act in certain ways where you're like, huh, I wonder if that's it. I know sometimes it is, but that makes sense. Yeah. So then got into sports, didn't like it as much. developed, and we talked about this on the first podcast, a
Hmm.
little bit of eating disorder, didn't want to eat food, and then hormones, birth control, hormones started to go off, underfed, and then went off to college and started lifting with your friend.
Well, I actually started lifting, which thank God, looking back, I didn't like severely injure myself. I was still lifting throughout the whole eating disorder. That was still happening.
Uh,
I'm
wonder what
like,
your thyroid numbers were like back then, huh?
I have no clue. I have no
Zero,
clue.
zero, gone.
Yeah.
Which is still crazy to me, Mac. I'm still curious about how what your estradiol levels could be like.
Honestly, like I said, I love looking at other people's labs, but looking at my own, I'm like, oh God.
Yeah, I can't wait to
No.
see what yours are here pretty soon.
It's kind of like how you're like, I'm nervous about getting a GI map, like the same thing.
Yeah, you're like, man, I know it because in my mind it's like I know there would be something, and then I would know there would need to be a prioritization on fixing that, and I just don't have time for that shit at the moment. Like, I really should though.
It's not even like I would see the labs and be like, oh no, there's no fix. I'm just like, I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah, you would rather not know than know because if you knew, then you would have to prioritize it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here we are talking about like things with our clients that we need to fix. We should listen to ourselves sometimes. But that's important to know because like we are all the same. We are like with you and I's clients, Mac, when we're in elite functional health and we're talking in that group chat and people are going through stuff and they commonly do feel like I don't want to be like I can't relate with you guys. They seem some of them have and they've told me, you know, like a that it's real that it seems to happen more often than we might think. That those think that the rest of us are just killing it, and that they're
Exactly.
like, man, I'm dealing with this, no one else is. When in reality, most people are like that, even us.
Mm-hmm.
Most people are like that, even us. So that's the cool part about being a coach, and especially doing it in this functional health space is like we're doing it because we get one that we've been there and made it through, and don't want other people to make the same mistakes. But also like, look, I can relate. Like anytime I go through something, the one of the positives in it is that I could relate to this now. I could relate.
Yes. And you become such a better coach
Yeah. Yeah. Like
too.
if I start like breaking out, like it's happening again a little bit for me, like on my shoulder, I'm getting a little bit breakout again. I'm like, man, when I get through this, if anybody ever gets acne, I'm going to relate to them so goddamn close.
Well,
Like,
I told Justin yesterday. I was like, whenever that's just a testament. I was like, whenever I think skin issues, I think of Riley.
yeah. And even
Well,
like
not like
eczema.
Riley has skin issues, but like
Yeah. Yeah.
whenever
Yeah.
I think of somebody needing help with skin issues, I'm like, Riley's got it.
Yeah. Depending on what it is, you know, again, like, man, you know, like psoriasis is, you know, a different animal, so on and so forth. But functional health, right? You go to people who've been there and you figure it out. I think that's the most important part is just being willing and able to figure it out. That's the thing. Like, would you rather go to a coach that, you know, that knew some stuff but wasn't willing to accept or draw the line between what they do and don't know versus ones that like, you know what, I've dealt with some stuff, but we will figure it out. I'd rather go to someone who's like, they'll figure it out with me. We'll figure it out. They don't have to know everything, but they'll figure it
Yeah.
out. It's better if
Well,
they do.
willing to look for the answers.
Yeah, exactly. Like it would be nice to go to someone and be like, that's the expert. They know exactly what to do. I'll be fixed in six
They've seen
months.
this hundreds of times. Like it's
Yeah.
just, but even those people, not saying everyone, I feel like I need to always nuance things because I'm nervous. People are just gonna be like, she said this.
You're gonna get found out, Mac. You're gonna get
Yeah.
found out.
Yeah, it probably goes back to that. It probably does. But a lot of those people who are like, oh yeah, I've seen this time and time again. It's like copy, paste. There's your Candida protocol.
Happens a lot. Happens a lot.
Uh,
Well, shit, Mac. Was there anything that you didn't talk about that you felt like you wanted to?
I don't think so.
I feel
I
like we
don't think
got to know you pretty
I
good.
think that's a pretty good recap of like how I got to where I am and also like the trauma perspective of like why I am the coach I am.
Yeah. And I think it'd be really cool too, especially to anyone still listening. Thank you
Yeah,
for
thanks. I
sticking
know
around
we've been
too.
recording for a minute.
Yeah, but then also really knowing like if Mac is your coach, that she's been there, she knows it, she understands, she's an empathetic person. She's not just coaching for other reasons. Like there's real deep rooted motivation behind it. Like when things get tough with yours and whatever clients you have, your protocols, your motivation that gets you through is going to be a selfless one and not a selfish one.
Yes,
And that should be
absolutely.
comforting. So if
Yeah.
you're not coaching with Mac, you should.
I can't wait for your podcast. I'm very excited.
Yeah, we'll see. It'll be. What's it? Yeah. Sorry, got sick, couldn't make it.
Uh, well, thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah, thank you. We are cranking away on the episodes. I'm really stoked about this one. We've got one coming out, I think would have been right before this. So to recap the one that you just had with your client,
Yeah.
that's going to be a really good one. And we've got some really cool stuff coming up soon, like potentially a group, a community for the Mac and
Oh,
Riley podcast.
yeah.
That's going to be really cool. What were you made a face? What did you think I was going to
I
say?
didn't know what you were gonna say.
Oh yeah.
Do I know?
Something
Because
cool.
by the
There's a
time this
surprise.
episode's out, it's probably gonna be up because I'm starting it tomorrow.
Starting.
Starting to build a community tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh,
Which
that is true.
if it's not up by the time that this podcast is out, then I'm gonna be real pissed.
For any of the Mac and Riley fanatics at this point, just so you're aware, at the time of recording this, I believe 13th episode, we just posted our 6th, I think.
Yeah.
So I apologize, y'all. We got some stuff we're getting through, working on, and but we're catching up, and cool shit's happening, Mac. Really cool shit is happening. So thank you
Yes.
guys, and yeah, we'll talk to you on the next one when we go into Riley's or my story. Can't wait. See you guys.